Hello and welcome to Newsworthy Stories with Jacqueline Jimenez. I'm a television news coverage and social media consultant, and author of How to Get Television News Coverage. It's easier than you might think. And what I do is teach people and businesses how to identify news stories in their business and organization, then help them get local and national news coverage, as well as produce news stories for their social media sites. I often tell people that the same way that newsrooms get viewers is the same way that people and businesses should connect with people on social media. Use the same techniques. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a story that I specifically produced for social media. It was for a company called A to Z Medical Supply. It's located in Coral Springs, Florida, and they had opened up in the heart of COVID. There was nothing on the shelves. No gloves, no masks, no medicine, no temperature thermometers, and she had everything, but nobody knew she was there. So we produced this news story to run on her social media and on mine. And so what I'm going to do is let you hear it, and then we're going to talk about some of the elements that I chose to put in this story for very specific reasons. And so we're going to talk about that in a minute. And if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the comments as we go. And let's see what this story is all about.
When I arrived at A to Z Medical Supply, customers were coming out with bags in hand. The owner, Christine Fernandez, and her mom, Julie, opened the doors in February, just as the pandemic was ramping up. They're already impacting the community with much needed supplies and unexpected work for a friend.
I started out making the masks for people like the elderly who didn't have masks, my neighbors and whatnot. And then I came in here, she's my friend, and I showed her some of my masks, and she right away wanted me to stop producing them for her, so she could, because they're washable. So she sells the disposable, and she figured it would be so much nicer to have one that you could wash and just reuse over and over again. So yeah, so I've been making them for her for about a week now. So I haven't seen my clients since this started. So I've lost my income. So this has been something that's definitely been a blessing because it's helping with our bills.
You can call in your order and pick it up, or simply walk in. Christine tells us what you'll find.
Hi, my name is Christine Fernandez. I'm one of the owners here at A to Z Medical Supply. We have some supplies to show you to help keep you safe during the pandemic. First to show you are our masks. So we have disposable masks that come just like this, a box of 50. They look like this, and they're the one use and done. We are also offering to break the box for a pack of 25 and less for your needs. We also have the very popular soft KN95 masks, and these are great because they last up to a week, and they're also very easy to care for. So just a quick Lysol spray and somewhere you can place in the sun and you're good to go. And lastly, we partner with some crafters to make us some washable, reusable cotton masks. And these are also very simple to care for, just some water and soap, lay out to dry, and you're good to go. We have the very popular pulse oximeter, and these are great because they measure the oxygen to your lungs if you're experiencing shortness of breath. These are the little apparatus that go on your finger. We have the spirometer that exercises your lungs. We have the infrared no-touch thermometer that's very simple to use. We have gloves, size small, medium, and large. And we have the alcohol prep pads that come in this size, box of 100, and some Tylenol. We are located at 2135 North University Drive on University and Royal Palm corner. We are in the plaza with Michael's and Doris Market, and we are here to help, and we would love to see you soon. Stay safe.
All right, so that's a look at the story from A to Z Medical Supply. Now, when we started running that story on social media, on her social media platform, and on mine. We literally could not talk for 4.5 months because she went from no business pretty much to nonstop business. So, first of all, what I want to talk to you about that story was I started it out with a picture of a woman carrying a bag. Now, remember, there were no supplies anywhere to be found. Now, here's this woman is walking out with a bag full of medical supplies that were needed so much. So, first of all, your pictures help tell the story. So, when you're posting, like, and you're talking about a picture, really talk to the picture. What is that picture really saying? That is really what you want to get across, because when you're writing your post, it needs to speak to the audience. And I can even show you, no, I can't show you. I can't show you that picture anymore. But there's a picture I took of Linda Pringle Evans, who is actually going to be here next week. And I just did a screenshot of us when we were doing a live and together. And I said, I'm just going to take a picture of us. I'm going to put a post later. And I had actually caught her a couple of times, during our conversation. And she was just so passionate, and she's got her finger pointing, and I just grabbed that shot. Now, if you had to choose between what would be more interactive, well, I chose the shot not with just both of us smiling, going, cheese, because we did take that picture. But what I did do was I put the picture of her going like this, because that describes who she is. She is a passionate and extraordinary woman. And I'll even talk about her a little bit later on as I tell you what's coming up next week. But that was the first shot I used. So even in the simple, in a Zoom call or anything like that, you can take action pictures even online. They speak to people. In fact, some of the posts that I put get the most views of just people, in those Zoom boxes, And so don't be afraid to put those on. Don't be afraid to share those pictures, because people are curious. And I'm going to mention this not only today, but often. What is exciting to people, and if you just look at their Facebook page, Twitter, all of them are really photo albums. And that's even LinkedIn. They're photo albums, and they're telling people stories. And that's why stories are so important. So when it comes to your business and talking about those stories, it could be the small stories or the big stories. No matter what, it's what connects you to the people who are watching you. Social media is your audience. Just like television, when you turn on the TV, you're the audience. Well, when you post, social media is your audience, and you should treat it the same way. The other thing that I wanted to point out in that story was Michelle. Michelle was never supposed to be a part of that story. I was actually going just to cover the fact that she had supplies. But when I got there, Michelle was dropping off these handmade masks that she was making. And I was like, wow, this is a great, addition to the story, because now two things were happening. One, it was relatable. At that time, many people were losing their jobs, just like she was. Had been a companion at a senior center and was no longer able to go into those centers because it wasn't safe. And so here she was, crafty, and she is crafty. She makes a lot of things besides masks, but here she is taking her craft to her friend. Now, nobody in the community knows this business other than it's a medical supply company. And that's how they see it. When they see the sign, A to Z Medical Supply, that's what it says. But now they're getting an inside look at the owner's heart. We're in a crisis mode at that point. She could have said, you know what, Michelle, I'm a brand new business. I don't have time to sell your masks. I'm selling masks here. I don't have time to help you. But she didn't. And that really spoke to the community and engages with the community. And it takes your business from being a business, that the people drive by, to a neighborhood business. And when they see that story about what you're doing or how you helped your friend in the middle of a pandemic, it changes your image entirely. They want to come in to your store because you cared. And that speaks volumes. If people don't know the community work that you do, they're only going to see your business as it is. Or even in your industry. If you only are known in your industry, you're really robbing yourself. And so these are the types of things that I share in my workshops. And then the last thing that I wanted to point out in this particular story was at the end. Now, remember, this is the heart of the pandemic. I wasn't really sure if masks were effective. And I was like, I don't really want to shoot inside your store. I'll shoot all the interviews outside the store, but I don't want to shoot inside that store. And so Christine and her mom, her mom shot the video of her using her phone. I can't tell you how important your phone and your iPads are. You can generate so much original content. It's important for you to realize how effective your phones are. And even on television, your local news stations, they use phone video all the time. And so being able to having her shoot that video, giving it to me, right? And I included it in the story. The same way I did that, local news can do that. They can take your video and put it on the air. And what I do, in fact, I have a master class. If you go to Eventbrite, look up how to get television/social media news coverage. You will see you'll see the introduction, and then you'll see a series. And there's 5 different series, 5 different master classes, and one of them is how to shoot video yourself and / no shows. So how do you get television news coverage when the media doesn't show up? Well, you can't. And so you can go you can go to my website. If you go to my website, you can actually see it. And my website is www.newsworthystory.com. Even though I'm Newsworthy Stories, my website is Newsworthy Story, STORY.com. And when you go there, you'll be able to look up the upcoming upcoming workshops. You'll also be able to see my handbook, which every workshop does come with a handbook, including the introduction. And this is a handbook you can read in 40 minutes and review it regularly. So that's something you can easily take advantage of. You can just go on either on my website. It'll take you straight to Eventbrite, and you can look up the various master classes. But that particular one on shooting video yourself, everyone can do that because you will help out your marketing departments, your PR departments, if you have new content. I really encourage you to get away from stock photos as much as possible, because people will engage in those regular photos because they do every day on Facebook, Instagram, and all those other places, that you have video. And so I encourage you to do that as much as possible. Now, the other thing I wanted to share with you again is the fact that this news story is something that you have control over. I really recommend as much as possible to try and get that local news coverage. Now, Julie didn't want that. She was like, no, I don't want news coverage. And that's fine. And in this case, she didn't really need it. It was so effective. It gave her nonstop business. And that was great. But when you can get local news coverage, you want to do both, because news can cover your story, but they can't always cover the whole story because they're bound by commercials. But a news story for social media, I tell people, you can have the 60 minutes version. You can have, a little story promo. There's all kinds of ways to use it. So what I wanted to do today also was to let you hear from Julie herself as to how this news story for social media helped her business.
So we were just opening the store, and obviously, no real budget to do any immediate marketing. We didn't really have our proper signage yet. We didn't have signage outside. So we were new store without any visibility. So in Jacqueline coming in and saying, you need to get visible. You're an essential business. We need to talk about your store. We need to get it out there. What she produced was a news story. So before the news story, people were kind of walking by chance finding us, maybe, or friend of a friend may be coming in. In the production of the news story, she blasted it out there. And news on social media, to me, is even bigger for me personally than news media on the news. Of course, we're listening to the news all the time. We're listening to national news, we're listening to politics, but local businesses and local news, we're following all of that on social media. We're watching live stories on Facebook. We're seeing stuff on Instagram. We're seeing stuff across media platforms, and that's where your people who are needing to find resources and find stores, find what they need, that's what they're looking at. They're having a friend tag them, hey, go here. This was so incredibly important for us because it got us out there. Before we had the story, we really just had a couple of people kind of walking by. Then the story broke. Then we had people coming in saying, we saw your story. That was amazing. Oh my gosh, you have a crafter. You're working with someone locally. And then people just attach themselves to that. They want to feel a part of community. And local news stories on local, with a local reach is really so impacting. It has just been so important for us to have that. We're so appreciative of that opportunity. We would have never known how to do that. It's really meant a lot of business to get our name out there on social media, even more so than the news. The news can spread across counties. Local news stories brings your local people to their local businesses, and that has been fantastic for us. We thank you so much for that, Jacqueline.
Needless to say, it was quite an honor for me to really work with Julie and Christine. They were so awesome in what they were doing. And I have to, this was a story about a medical supply company, but I really want to reiterate the importance that if you don't send your stories to the newsroom, they will not know about them. And that is one of my biggest reasons for even starting Newsworthy Stories. As a producer, we used to fight over the types of stories that I am generating through businesses and organizations because we wanted our newscast to be balanced. We wanted it to be balanced, but we don't have a lot to choose from all the time. And what I do in my workshops is I teach you how to make your stories more easily accessible to the newsroom, to when you're sending a press release, send it with the right angle, because a lot of times, even if you do send the stories, you send it with the wrong angle. It sounds like a commercial. And news is it's not your PR person, In fact, that's a part of a chapter in my book. News is not public relations. You can get public relations from a news story, but news is not public relations. They are not your PR people. And so when you send a press release that really sounds all about you, more than likely that's not going to get you coverage unless it's something gigantic or something incredibly impactful. So I help you understand what news will cover, when to send press releases, when not to send press releases, but also how to produce news stories for social media and so on and so on. There's really a lot, so go to my website, www.newsworthystory.com, and find out what workshops are coming up. Also, if those times don't work out for you, please let me know. I tend to just put times, that I'm available, and then I put it out there. But if they don't work for you, please let me know, and then I'll add the time that works for you, and then work my schedule around it. So coming up next week, so excited, Linda Pringle Evans. She is a branding expert and just a legend when it comes to being great at generating income for women or teaching them how. And she is going to join us with her biggest concern for women, in particular when it comes to women business. Don't worry, men, there's plenty for you to get in on or to learn from. But she has been so successful that she is also the lead counsel for the SBA. And so she's got the connections, right all the way up to the White House, so to Congress itself. You want to hear from her because she knows what she's doing, but the passion behind it is just unending. She is the wisdom that she's had, and she's just ready to just, you know, take the veil off. There's no holding her back right now. She's launching something new, and I want you to hear about it. And I want you to hear about it here first if you don't hear about it anywhere else. Linda Pringle Evans, she's with Pringle Business Consulting. I can't wait for you to hear what she has to say. She will be here live next week. So we look forward to hearing her. Thank you so much for joining Newsworthy Stories with Jacqueline Jimenez. Next Tuesday, 12:30, join me again. Thanks so much.